Good evening. As Martin said, I want to talk to you about professional progression, what it means, how to do it, most importantly, and what outcomes that you should be expecting for doing it. We will discuss experience and what that means in design and digital professions in general, personal and professional development, and the skills needed throughout your career. But quickly, and most importantly for me, a short story. And my story goes back many, many years. I was told that I couldn't do anything. And more importantly, again, that I would never do anything as well. From a young age, I was told that I wasn't good enough. Everybody goes, oh. From friends, family, my mum, teachers, and people that I looked up to. I was told that I just wasn't capable to do anything particularly meaningful. But you want to know what happened? Thank you. I chose to prove people wrong. So here's a couple of stories. My English teacher, back in middle school, used to beat my knuckles with a wooden ruler. Oh. It bloody hurt. For being bad at handwriting. However, how she ever thought beating my knuckles with a wooden ruler would affect my handwriting in a good way, I just don't understand. Mrs. Hall was a nice individual, apart from when she had that wooden ruler in her hand. She did tell me that I wasn't good enough, though, not just at handwriting, but just at English in general. Thanks, Mrs. Hall. But the only thing was that one day I was at home with my dad, and I started writing in a book. And in that book, I put many words down and took it to my dad and read it to him. My dad wasn't the most poetic, but the thing that I did write was a piece of poetry about homelessness. My dad started to cry. Oh. And he, without me knowing, sent it off to a poetry competition. And somehow, the non-English Gavin, who was beaten with a wooden ruler, managed to get that poetry published in a book. Thanks, Mrs. Hall. You were wrong. I was told that I wasn't good enough at maths. You can tell the education system worked well for Gavin. However, Gavin went on to take the highest level exam for his GCSEs and passed. Even if I did have to go for remedial training every single lunchtime and evening for the 6 months leading up to the GCSEs, which I absolutely hated, with the teacher that I didn't like. But anyway, just to progress this story. I was told that I would never be able to get sponsors for large events, and went on to bring in the biggest amount of private money that the people who I was working with at the time had ever seen to support a conference. I was told that I couldn't even start my own conference. Somebody said those words to me, and I proved them wrong, because I ran a conference successfully for 4 years. That'll teach them. I was told that I couldn't do that many things, both education or other things. People said that I didn't have the resilience, that I was too short-tempered. And then I went to serve 3 years in the British Army. And believe me, I met resilience as it slapped me in the face. Serving in the army was fun. But that just proves that you can actually prove people wrong if you put in the hard work and effort. And then we get to the design industry. During the 12 long years of my career in the design industry, I've been consistent, I would say, in my professional progression, with a few sharp left and right turns. I'm glad that I got that the right way, otherwise that was going to be a bit awkward. I've learned a lot, and not just about myself, but about how our industry works, or doesn't sometimes, where we kind of tend to trip up on certain things, or where we just go wrong because we don't get everything right all of the time. And I think these are the things that are behind me, are the things about where we tend to go wrong in our industry. And you can apply these to not just the design industry, but to either development or just the digital industry as a whole. I don't think we do enough training, especially training with meaningful outcomes, because going to a conference for a very good drink with your friends is not training. That is only training in a very different way, and that's called alcoholism. It's great for networking. And if you ever go to your boss and say, I want to go for networking with people from the industry, I believe he'll probably know that that is also a very large piss-up. And it's not learning at all. You have to identify real training opportunities generally for yourself, for both personal and professional direction. Which leads me on to the lack of direction. Often that we get this bit wrong intentionally, more so because we don't do anything about it in organizations. Because when was the last time you saw or created a career path for your business or organization? Does anybody know what a career path is? That's why I'm here. I wanted at least one person. Considering there's some members of my team up there, so they should know. Craig. You should know or be explicitly telling people what expectations there are and guide them towards them. Because you should know, if you are in any kind of business, that you don't join at the bottom of the rung and then stay there for the rest of your life. At some point, people would love a pay rise, but would also like some kind of team to work with them, below them, or at least move up through the business. We're not very good at this bit either. Does anybody have a mentor? That's better. There's like 0.005 of the audience, but anyway, let's keep moving on. If you don't have a mentor, why don't you have a mentor? And if you do, are they the right mentor to have? Are you a mentor yourselves? And if not, why not? Why are you stopping somebody else from not having a mentor? Because it doesn't really matter what level you are. Even as a junior, you could still be mentoring somebody else that's either in college or university and helping them. It's rare that mentoring is given any kind of value in any business whatsoever. I created a mentor program in the Department for Work and Pensions and Digital because there wasn't one. And I really knew that my team members could really value from a mentor program. And now every team member, permanent member of staff rather, in my team has a mentor. We don't place that much importance around various routes in and out of design professions. Designers and developers can become product owners, or user researchers can become designers, but we never actually help people sway and guide themselves into something that's different from what they started as. There's nothing wrong with you starting as a developer and moving your way into a product ownership, or starting as a service designer and ending up as a user researcher. I think we get too quickly pigeonholed into a very straight line of where we're going to end up, and it's wrong. We should be seeing the value in people and progressing them along that line, nothing else. We should be establishing these things as norms and making them highly visible to our teams. But let me knock everybody down, and it's a good job you've all got drinks in your hands, because I'm about to give you a dose of reality. So before we get to the real practical bits, let's get a bit of realization in the room. Please write these down if you've got a pad of paper, if you want to take photos of them, if you want to record videos of me. That's a bit weird, but you know what I'm getting at. And use them to motivate yourself. That sounds even more weird, doesn't it? Don't record me and then motivate yourself. Jesus. Awkward. Damn it, Gav. Right. They're all, damn it. They're all directly connected to professional progression, kind of. This is getting weird. I'm just moving on. Right, hang on. Right. Life is not easy. Let's start with this one. Do not fall into the trap of being or feeling entitled. Do not feel like you're entitled, because you are not. If everything is gifted to you on a plate, stay at home. Let somebody else into your job, please. You will not progress without putting some form of effort in. Do not become entitled, because life is not easy. It's always bloody hard, and everybody has to get up in the morning and deal with something that is hard. So just stick at it and don't become entitled, because I'll come after you. I love this one. Unbelievable. Things that happen that you describe as unbelievable is not hard work. Because hard work is hard work. If you've ever sat there and went, ooh, that's unbelievable. No, that actually happened. If a footballer scores a goal, that wasn't unbelievable because guess what? The ball is in the back of the net. It's not unbelievable. It's very, very believable. Hard work is not defined by time, but defined by how smartly you can use those hours at your disposal. Remember, work smart, not hard. Work. If you're going into work, if you leave the house in the morning and the front door opens and you say, I'm off to work, just stay at home because you've already lost. If you start defining the thing that you enjoy doing every single day as work, that's wrong. If you want to leave the house and go and do that fun thing or spend time with your friends in a building where you do things and there are outcomes, that's different. Let it be fun, let it be enjoyable. But if you go to work and you walk out with a very sad weight on your shoulders, then something needs to change. Either you need a different job, you need a different employer, or you need to go and see a counsellor. And everything is fantastic about going to see a counsellor. Please do it. That's a serious question. Statement, rather. Put yourself first. If you put work before yourself, you've probably already lost as well. You are the primary thing, apart from if you've got kids, because then they come first. You are the primary thing in your life. You are the one that causes happiness. I can see somebody there with a camera that's making this really weirded out now because I feel like they're going to use this later. Sorry, just keep recording though. Awkward. Stop it, Gav. Right. You are the most important thing in your life. You need to be happy at least 99.9% of the time. If you are not happy with your life, something needs to change. Sometimes it's in your personal life. Sometimes it's in that thing that you do every day that you go to do and get paid for doing it. It's not work. But if you're not happy, and if you're not putting yourself first, and if you're putting that thing first, and if you do call it work, because that's when it turns a bit sour, if you are going to work and having to do work all of the time and you get paid for doing work, then usually you need to have a kind of a realignment of the way that you think. So please put yourself first every single day and make sure that you are happy in that thing that you are doing every single day. It became a sticker. Complaining is nothing without action. Don't sit there and complain and not do anything about it. Convert the negative energy that you're holding at the time and turn it into a positive. I use this phrase with my children. They are 4 and 6 years old. I'm not sure they understand it, but I tell them anyway. Don't complain. Don't complain at Dad. Do something else. Do something. Don't complain. Because complaining is nothing without action. If you want to sit there and complain, you're going to sit in a myriad of bad feeling rather than using some kind of energy and doing something positive. Whether it's getting out of that situation or it's spending it on something that you love doing. Don't complain. Or at least, if you want to complain, do something about it. Now, I use this slide in a different talk, and then I say, this is where Gav starts talking about fluffy bullshit. Self-awareness is not fluffy bullshit. Self-awareness can save lives. 99.9% of everybody are not self-aware. People don't understand themselves and they don't know what works in here or here, and then they're just not self-aware. Please be more self-aware. It's basically understanding one's feelings and what motivates us. Unfortunately, not many people are, like I've said, but if you want to start looking into self-awareness, please do. It will change your entire life. It changed mine. It actually saved my life. Shortcomings. Everybody has them. Who has ever sat down, put your hands up please, and said, these are the things I'm bad at? That's more like it. That's like 49%. Excellent. I was expecting one person again. The thing is, generally, we don't talk about shortcomings, especially to somebody else, because we don't want to feel like we're bad at things. I don't know if that's a British thing or we just need a cup of tea to get over it, but, you know, it's just not a very British thing to do. But we really need to recognise them, because if we don't recognise the shortcomings, we'll actually never break through with them. Because the one thing that we can do, if you recognise your shortcomings, which everybody has them, you can start accentuating your strengths. If you focus on your strengths, how good do you become? It's endless. It's a big uptick in how good you are as a human. Lean in. Motivate yourself and actually give a damn about the stuff that you're actually doing. A lot of people can, especially in that work environment, go to work and do their jobs and then leave. If that is the case, like I've said, don't be there anymore. But if you don't feel like you can lean in, why not? Because I expect every single member of my team to lean in. Because that's an expectation. I lean in every day. I lean in for them. They should lean in for me. We should lean in for everything that we're focusing on. Lean in. Motivate yourself. Give a damn. So, now I've got those things out of the way. At the core of professional progression is experience. But being told you need experience is about as much use as a pocket in a sock. Often people are given the merry-go-round of not having experience, but not being in a position to get it in the first place, to sit down with a manager or a line manager or somebody else and them to say, "Ooh, you can't do that thing because you need experience." The hell am I supposed to do with that? Experience takes time and it takes effort and you need to be in it. But if you're not in it, how the hell can you get it in the first place? Experience takes time. But how much time, Gavin? What does it look like? Well, Gavin has a theory. Gavin has lots of theories, by the way, and I don't know why I'm talking myself in a different way. But anyway, Gavin has a theory and it's a working title. Over the years, I've put rough guesstimates. This gets very rough and very guesstimation-y. I've got rough guesstimates around the time it should take for you to move throughout your career if you put the effort in, if you put hard work in, and if you lean in. Now remember, this is a theory. I'm willing to be challenged on it, but just remember that I'm right. So it kind of looks like this. And like I said, if you are a junior and you've just seen 13 plus years at the bottom, please don't cry. Or at least if you do, just make sure it goes in your beer bottle. It takes a while, but it's supposed to. Because we're going to talk about focus and what your focus should be in that in order for you to keep progressing. So the first two experience levels should be focused on 80% working on the delivery or the practical side of the thing that you do, and 20% on the personal and professional progression and development. The third experience level, senior, should be focused on 70% on delivery or the practical thing that you do, 20% on personal and professional development, and 10% on something like community building. And if you don't work in a large organization, community building is things like recruitment or mentoring other staff or just generally learning and helping the business grow. The fourth experience level, down to that lead position, should be 80% on leadership and quality of the thing that you do and that practical thing and community building. And then the other 20% should be on your own personal professional development. Just because you move into more senior roles does not mean that you lessen the amount of time that you spend on your personal professional development. I think in a lot of companies, you kind of get to that more senior level and then the business say, you have to spend more time on the business and then leave it as that. And then the amount of time that you can spend on yourself goes down. That's not right, in my opinion. Remember, Gavin's working theory, that is actually right, because it is. And the fifth experience level should be 80% on things like strategy and leadership. So you do start moving into the more kind of businessly orientated type of things. But 80% on strategy and leadership. Guess what the other 20% is for? Personal and professional development. Again. Right, next up. Skills. This is quite a lengthy list, so I'll try and move through them as fast as possible. So as well as experience, as in time, you also need to gain skills. And these aren't like becoming... Oh, God, I forgot this bit was in here. Right. These aren't like becoming 100% proficient in Envision. If I see that again in my entire life, I will not be happy. Because it's not about becoming 100% proficient in Envision. That isn't making you a good designer. But anyway, if somebody wants to talk to me about that in the pub, I'll happily whinge. The next section of this talk will focus on everything that you need to progress. Please take notes, photos, not the video. Use them as if they were your own. Use them in reviews. How many people do mid-year or end-of-year reviews? Good. About 30.2% or something. And build them into your job descriptions. How many times have you ever written a job description? Put your hands up if you have written a job description before. Okay. How many of you reviewed your job description as part of your everyday role that you have? Yeah, it's not enough. Okay, work on that. Listen more than you speak. You should realize that you may not have all the answers. Acknowledge to take something from A to B. But the people around you, or you and your team do. You're willing and able to listen to their thoughts and feedback, rationalize the thoughts, and with the preferred outcome, and make a plan verbally once you are ready. Listen, don't speak initially, just wait, methodically work through your thought process, and then speak. You should speak when needed and present information when required with purpose and thought and not before. People that speak before they listen sometimes end up looking very, very silly. I did one day. I'm not going to tell that story. You can visualize a path to success. You have the foresight to see the route to a successful outcome. Yes, things might get in your way and things will test you, but overall, you're able to see what the end game is and be able to articulate that so everyone around you knows it too. You have the answers. If someone has a question, you have an answer. Everything is clear in your head. You know if there are challenges, when and where they're likely to pop up, and these again can be articulated externally and internally within your team that you're working in. And as well as that, you're able to communicate clearly how success might be brought about quicker by doing X, Y, or Z. Sometimes things take a bit of elbow grease. They don't need a big full glitzy bang show on like releasing a massive piece of software. Sometimes things just take a bit of elbow grease. You know what's going on because you care so much about what you're doing, and due to that, you have the answers. And one of the biggest things, if you don't have the answer, you actually stand up and say, I don't have the answer, but I'll go away and find out. You have integrity. You're honest about what can be achieved, and or you'll find out what can be achieved. If you don't think something's possible, you don't say it is, knowing full well that it isn't, because you look very silly. Alternatively, if you've been controlling something and it's not being successful, you'll hold your hands up to that being the case. You don't shift the blame or reason it to somebody else. You can openly say why something isn't or shouldn't be possible. You can rationalize your thoughts to remain honest and truthful. Don't lie, ever. You have clear hindsight. You can look back at something and know what things have been causing challenges. You can easily say which things you've learned from and how you've come to do them differently, or how you would do them differently in the future. Future thinking. You're always thinking about the future and what needs to be done whilst working on the current without messing up that current thing. You don't screw things up to get another thing done. You have focus. This goes a bit with the complaining without action thing. You never give up. You live and breathe that thing that you're working on. You can care about it incessantly. You're clever enough to realize where something isn't going to work and can quickly adjust yourself and your team to get a better outcome. It's about keep going forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other. Doesn't matter what level you're at whatsoever, but you can lead from the front. If I'm in a room full of, newly established members of the team against senior stakeholders, it is still my expectation that I will help a junior member of staff have the confidence to have or communicate to senior stakeholders. Lead from the front. Either you can act unshakable or you can be unshakable. Sometimes it's worth acting it. Or to give people the perception that you are, in fact, unshakable. If something bad happens, you don't panic, just wait. You know to react in a calculated and calm fashion. You're the person you'd want in a trench. You want to lead and have the respect of those directly around you. And you have the trust in them and them in you. Don't be scared to share your opinion. You carry conviction in sharing your opinion. You know how to deliver it in a manner where it will be respected. This is massively about communication. And communication is one of the things that I often see missing in lots of different people. Simply blurting out your thinking doesn't carry through to the person that is listening, and it'll usually end up making you look a bit silly in very basic terms. You're not the type of person to sit back or in the back of a room whilst everybody else shares their opinion. You sit at the front, you listen to what's being said, you understand it to the best of your ability, you ask any questions that may or should be asked, and then you offer your opinion. Especially if you know something that can be done better. Because if you see something in front of you that is wrong, and you don't offer your opinion, you're as bad as the people delivering the message. There's somebody in this room, and it's not Craig for a change, who I actually saw in a meeting, listen to things, and then tell people how bad an idea it was. That decision was taken on board, dealt with, implemented the way that the person offering that opinion, in the way that they asked it to be done, and then it was aced. Offer your opinion if that's what it is. Actively take control. Do the job above you. Everyone around you knows that you've exhibited some kind of sign of being a more senior figure. It doesn't matter whether you're going at a junior level to a more practitioner level or a practitioner to a senior level and so on and so forth. Exhibit those kinds of signs. Even if your job title doesn't say it, sometimes you shouldn't need the permission to do the job above you. You just kind of go and do it and beg for forgiveness later. That's usually what I do, by the way, but I'm not saying that's a good example. Alternatively, if the people around you don't want to be led by you, then you're not usually even close to leading. By leading, you get the right stuff the right stuff done and make good progress. Right, by the sniggers, some people know what PITA stands for. You can be a pain in the ass, but you're a good pain in the ass. Because bad pain in the asses are a bad pain in the ass. Everything that you do is for the good of the people around you and the good of the product or the thing that you're working on. It doesn't matter whether you're working in government or you're working at an agency or you're a freelancer or whatever, or a small business. Most pain in the bottoms are difficult to work with, are negative, and no reason at all, are generally just kind of stay around and be a nuisance. I don't like people being a nuisance. I don't like people stopping progress. And I certainly don't like people that make things difficult. But if you are a good pain in the ass, and I know a few, they assert a level of control like Zeus himself. A good pain in the ass will control something in a way you may not agree with, but will generally deliver what you've wanted and more. They have their own way of doing things, but they are very, very, very good at doing it. Sometimes people like me just need to step off and let those PITAs get on with it. You're good. Everybody likes somebody that's good. So you will be good at what you do, whether that be your core skill set, multiple skill sets, or leadership itself. Good people take you to where you need to go and how fast you want to go with it. They can go at speed and they can do things in a very, very good manner. You're good at knowing when things need to be done in a certain time frame and can explain to those around you how that is going to happen. How often does anybody do one-to-ones? Yeah, good. Your manager should be sitting down with you and doing one-to-ones. And if they are not, ask them to start them. But you can also do one-to-ones with other members of staff as well. Remember that whole thing about shortcomings and recognizing certain things? Does anybody, obviously we do mid-year and end-of-year reviews as well, so get involved with them. You look forward to setting the objectives in your end-of-year reviews or your new year. You push yourself every step of the way, and you push yourself outside of your normal comfort zone. It's the British way to stay within them, so get outside of them and keep pushing forwards. This is a bit of a contentious one. Because it looks a bit awkward, let's just say. So if you're happy in work, and you start diving out of the office to go for secret interviews, it looks a bit weird. So your boss will start asking some questions. But it's a good for you to practice your interview skills. At some point, you will move out of the role that you're in into somewhere else. And if you turn up at an interview, especially with people like me, or me just in general, I will judge you in that interview, because that's the only time I have to judge you, is the 1 hour that you spend with me. If you haven't practiced your interview skills, you may come across in the wrong way. Even you could be the most golden potential candidate that I've ever seen, but if you don't come across in the right way in that interview, I might not hire you. I do apologise in advance if any of you actually end up in that position. But that's the way it is. So practice your interview skills. Even if it means that you don't need to apply for it or want to apply for it. So if you are a web developer and you've seen the barber looking for a hairdresser, just go for it. It'll be a bit of a laugh and you might get a free haircut, or you might get a really bad haircut if you act like a bit of a... that. So yeah, practice your interview skills. Get a mentor. We've already talked about this one. If you don't have a mentor, get one. Write out to as many people as you can who think might be able to mentor you, or somebody that you really value their opinion. If you're looking for advice as to how to set up a mentor program within your business organization or so on and so forth, I'll share the link out after this talk, or maybe tomorrow because I generally forget. And I've written guidelines on how to do it. So just drop me a DM for the link. Deliver. Everybody loves delivering something, whether it's a piece of design work, whether it's a part of a build into a dev environment or something. Just deliver. No one wants to work on something for the test of time to find out that it actually isn't going to go live. Sometimes we end up in situations where things get culled or things get paused or stopped, but still keep delivering. And have intention. You absolutely have to have intention, and make sure that you document your intent as well. The one thing that I found a neat little trick is in my notebook, in my bag, I write down the intent of the things that I want to focus on in a 1 month period, 3 month period, 6 month period. Write them down and make sure I stick to them. That is my intent. That is what Gavin will focus on in the next however much time. If you don't write down your intent and it stays up here, generally you forget it, generally you ignore it, and generally nothing else happens. But if you document it and you've written it down, it means that you've got something to stand by. So what are you aiming to do in the next 3 to 6 months? Think about it long and hard, and then write it down, and then even publicize it. You could even blog about it. You could publicize it to managers or, senior stakeholders, but make sure that you hold yourself accountable. A wise man once said, just keep going. It's now instilled in our team, and I use it probably more often than they do. Things do get tough, things do get hard, but just keep going. Celebrate all of your successes, and remember, every day you're interviewing for your next job, so make the most of it. Thank you.
So we don't usually do Q&A.
We don't.
But this sort of feels appropriate, and we have
5 minutes.
Maybe 5 minutes left. So
if there is any questions.
If there are any questions, yeah, we can maybe take 1 or 2 and see where we go. We have one. Let's start there. Yes, you're getting the mic. Keep it recorded.
It's just a more direct one. Are we able to get the slides and maybe even your notes as well to go with certainly the skills slides at the end there?
Yes, really I will most certainly remove the swear words from my notes.
Leave them in there.
To be fair, it's comedy gold in there, by the way. There's spelling mistakes also. No, yes, you can have the slides, and yes, I will somehow put the notes on there as well.
That'd be brilliant.
No problem at all.
We usually... Actually, we didn't last month, did we, with all the stuff that's been going on, but we usually post the slides the day after as well, so you've got belt and braces going on there.
No problem.
Any more for any more? Alex, sorry, you're the closest.
Do you not feel like by bringing up all that stuff, you yourself become a pain in the arse? When you start asking like all this?
All the time. One of my shortcomings is I'm a pain in the arse. Yes. Is that a short answer for you? I think the biggest thing is that I was just saying to Martin during the break, this talk has been 4 years in the making. So I originally wrote an article that I published on my blog and on Medium about some of the things within this talk. And at the time when I wrote that article, I also opened up a folder in my talks folder. There's only a couple of talks in there, and put professional progression, you must talk about this. And then it stayed there for 4 years. And over the 4 years, lots of things have happened. My own professional progression has been quite good. Things that I've gone through have been quite bad, but things still became better. And I've learned a lot along the way. I've had some fantastic mentors. I've currently got a mentor now. My mentor is the head of design for government. I learn a lot from them, but I also look to other people as well. It's not just about, that person above me being my mentor. I still learn a lot from the people that are around me. But be a good pain in the ass is what I'm going to say.
Good advice. I saw some hands over there. Yeah, I feel like I could do a little bit more exercise. I'll pass this down.
Yeah. You talk about like doing action. I've done that. How do you tell other people that you don't want to be doing anything to do with them ever again? Well, no, I'm talking about professionally, like old employers, stuff like that.
Context.
I'll give you some context. I've made a career decision to do something else.
Yeah.
But they're trying to tell me, oh, can you stay on and stuff like that? And you just tell them, I don't want to be doing that anymore. How do you politely tell them thanks, but no thanks?
Do you like your job?
I've already quit it, so
I wouldn't worry about it. Depending
but
on...
I obviously, I still want to keep a good, obviously, end on a good way, but...
So you were still there and you are leaving?
Yes.
Right. Do they know you're leaving?
Yes.
Right. Every employer, when somebody leaves, should do an exit interview. And that exit interview should be a no-holds-barred. So they can give feedback to you, and you can give feedback to them. And I would sit down and then say, can I have an exit interview? Because I've got some feedback. And then see how it goes. If they don't want to take that feedback in any particular way, I would just say, thanks for your time, I'm off. And then just walk out the door if you've got another job to go to. If you are currently in a role where that happens, where you feel mandated to do something in a certain way that you don't feel is right, use data or something that they can take. So generally business work of two things. Either numbers, in terms of this is the data, 99% of something is better off, so therefore they can't argue with data. The other thing generally is money. So if you are either going to save them money or make them money, that's where they listen. If you've got a fantastic idea and it's going to save the business money and it's going to then make the money, and in turn, they can't argue with that either. If you can phrase it in those two ways, generally they will listen. If they can't, or if they don't, there's plenty of recruitment consultants that probably will help you find another role.
Yeah.
Basically.
Another question as well. How do you... Someone... I'm getting better at leadership at the moment, but it's still something I'm struggling with. How would you... What's the best way of actually building up your leadership skills?
It's a really good... Yeah, I haven't had that question yet. Just watch this back.
Good. Because there's a difference between management and leadership.
There is a massive difference.
A lot of companies actually get confused about this as well.
They do. So I have quite a few different reference points in terms of books that you can read. Now, I think books are great, but you've got to put them into practical means, so you've got to put them into practice. Try and find a way that you can build leadership into your role that you're doing, which is great because then you get the experience. In terms of skill-based leadership exercises, there are certain courses that you can go on or certain conferences that you can go to or mentors specifically and talk to people. So, I do leadership every single day. There are people above me or sideways of me that do leadership as well. And it's sitting down and, you can do job shadowing, you can spend a day with somebody and follow them around and see how they act and why they talk in a certain way or how they communicate with people in a certain way. Generally, leadership is a lot in communication. There is an additional folder in my folder of talks called leadership. But yeah, if you want to ask any questions or if you kind of get stuck at any point or if you want some kind of guidance with regards to leadership on how you might deal with a certain situation, my DMs are open on Twitter and you can email for anything else as well. And I'll post out some of those leadership books or even some good videos like the Simon Sinek or somebody like that, where there's some really good, valuable gold in there that you can use as well.
Right. Very good.
No problem.
Probably got time for one or two more. Cables in the way down there.
Thank you. How do you go about getting that sort of initial experience to sort of break into the the more junior entry level sort of thing? Because I feel that's the hardest experience to get, is like the first bit.
It's the kind of first job almost.
Yeah.
So if you're coming from the likes of college or university, if you can get an industrial placement or something like that, there are employers out there. We are working on various different schemes to get people into. So I didn't even do an introduction to myself, by the way. My name's Gavin Elliott and I'm from the Department for Work and Pensions. Digital, by the way, not the other bit. There's HMRC, there's other big agencies in the Northeast that I know would absolutely love somebody to join their team, because most businesses like free work, and if it is a placement type of thing, they may pay, they may not, but it's a case of getting out there and saying, look, I just want to learn, and I need the experience, but can you help me get on the bottom rung? The other thing is doing work for free, and a lot of people go, ooh, don't do that. Sometimes it's the only way. I can remember having a conversation with somebody that I mentored for a couple of years who is now doing very, very well, and working with some extremely large businesses in the world. And they said, how do I start? And I said, what type of work do you want to do? And they said, X. And I said, well, do some of that for fun, put it around a few places. And then funnily enough, they started getting requests for that work, and they got paid very, very well for doing it. So do a bit of work for free, try and find placements. There'll be recruitment consultants that probably have inroads to that as well. The larger organizations generally have placement schemes. If you're at university, they will definitely link in with industry. Identify organizations that you would like to go and work with. I know we're one of the largest employers probably now, alongside HMRC in the Northeast, alongside the likes of Sage and other people. I would assume that Sage have some kind of placement scheme as well. Yeah, there we go. So it's not just us, by the way. It's not just me preaching. And there's others. There's people down the road in like Middlesbrough and areas as well. And speak to them. Find out what schemes they have. There will be some organisations that you think, I'd really like to work in that. When I sat down many years ago and said, I would love to work in these types of verticals. So one of them was travel. I did that, and that was delightful. One of them was kind of startups. I did that. That was delightful. Finance was another one. I've seen what finance looks like from the outside in. That's not delightful. And one of the others was government. And I ended up in government, and because of all this work that I saw GovUK doing, I thought that looks absolutely fantastic. I got in, and it was, and that's where I believe I can add the most value. So identify those places that you want to go to, research them, walk up to somebody's door and say, I would love to work with you, and then see what they can give back. If you show passion into working with somebody or for an organisation or a department, that is probably one of the best rungs on the ladder. And then go from there.
Right, so should we call it a night of that? Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Cheers.